Oda has already revealed who the major players will be during this final saga of One Piece, specifically the most important 12, and we'll be going through them and what this huge reveal tells us about what's to come as we approach the end of the legendary One Piece story. Channel the Pirate King within and smash that like button if you enjoy seeing One Piece videos like this one on the channel and want to keep them coming. Make this the video you join the Nakama if you haven't by subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss future One Piece videos and updates. And now, without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. So this big reveal was made during chapter 1121 at the end of the chapter. A chapter which also happened to have an amazing Nami focused 2-page double spread, just saying. But anyways, we were in a big way finishing up the Egghead arc here, since Luffy with Bonnie had just punched Saturn to shreds. It was a fitting climax for the arc since a large part of it was focused on Kuma and Bonnie, who suffered so much at the evil Saturn's hands. So in a way that signaled the end of Egghead and that we were now moving on to the home stretch of this series, which is all about finding the One Piece, hence the name of the series. Vegapunk's broadcast stated the following: "The fate of the world now rests in the hands of the one who finds it, the person who lays claim to the One Piece," end quote. This whole scene was epic as Oda used it to hype up the final stretch of the race and showed us 12 different characters in a 2-page double spread, including the Yonko, Shanks, Luffy, Blackbeard, and Buggy, along with 8 others including Koby, Dragon, Sabo, Sakazuki, Emu, Kuzan, Figarland Garling, and the mysterious figure who is hidden in shadow that we will get more into later. Out of all the possible characters, Oda chose to show us these ones. What's perhaps most impressive and telling is looking at the characters that aren't here. One that quickly comes to mind is Mihawk, who if Sabo, Dragon's right-hand man, was included, and Kuzan was included, who works under Blackbeard, then why not Mihawk, who is arguably much more than Buggy's right-hand man? Don't worry, we will be examining that further as we explore each member on this oh so prestigious list. 1. First off, we have the 39-year-old Yonko Red Hair Shanks, with his current bounty of 4.0489 billion berries. He is easily one of the most hyped characters in One Piece. He was a pirate apprentice on the pirate Gold D Rogers crew, along with another Yonko on this list actually. He was also famous for his incredible duels against Mihawk, the strongest swordsman in the world, and his haki is arguably the greatest of any present-day character we've seen, which is why he doesn't even need a devil fruit like the other Yonko. He also inspired Luffy, who wanted to become a pirate just like him, and he brought the Gum Gum fruit, aka the Sun God Nika fruit, which Kid Luffy ultimately ate and used to beyond impressive results. What's actually quite impressive is that Shanks has fleshed out relationships with every other Yonko, whether positive or negative. Obviously to Luffy, he's a father figure and mentor. To Buggy, he was like a brother on Gold D Rogers' ship, and Blackbeard is like his arch enemy. So much so that Shanks felt the need to warn Whitebeard and possibly the Gorosei about just how dangerous Blackbeard is. The signature scars on Shanks' face were in fact given to him by a younger and less powerful Blackbeard, and Shanks ensured us that he wasn't being careless when it happened. Blackbeard is just that dangerous. More recently, our favorite redhead pirate made Admiral Green Bull pee his pants with his haki alone. He ended that other redhead's career before the fight even really started, despite the latter's 3 billion berry bounty, and he was pretty much confirmed to be of Celestial Dragon origin because of his established connection to another major player on this list, Supreme Commander of God's Knights, Figarland Garling, who looked like a carbon copy of Shanks in his youth. And don't worry, we will be going over the latest updates about Figarland Garling and his new position when we come to him. Although Shanks made it clear that he's going after the One Piece with his crew, he seems like the kind of guy that would be okay with Luffy getting it and probably with Buggy getting it too. But I fear the story may require him to lose to his arch nemesis Blackbeard before all is said and done. Number 2. Next we gotta cover Luffy as the protagonist of the series, who needs no introduction. We've watched him improve his mastery over his devil fruit and haki over the years. Now he can repeatedly enter his awakened Gear 5 Sun God Nika form, which allowed him to beat former Yonko Kaido and even elders Mars and Saturn. His bounty of 3 billion is criminally underrated, although I'm hoping it'll get closer to where it should be after the events of Egghead are taken into account. Luffy is the new era Joy Boy, and I believe the old Joy Boy, who we've seen more of recently through flashbacks and a shocking hockey bomb, hoped someone like Luffy would win this great war, but as Vegapunk made clear, the outcome is not guaranteed, and the one who gets the One Piece and wins may not be the one Joy Boy hoped for. Still, as the protagonist we followed for so long, Luffy arguably has the best chance of actually pulling it off and becoming the Pirate King. But it'll definitely require more growth and help, as most of his victories did. I, for one, am still waiting for that inevitably epic father-son team-up with Luffy and Dragon. Number 3. Next we have Blackbeard, the darkest and most terrifying Yonko for sure. If any of the other Yonko get the One Piece, the current ones, I feel like things would be relatively fine. But if Blackbeard gets it, you know all hope's lost. He's 40 years old, currently has a bounty just short of Shanks's at 3.996 billion, and is honestly an amazing villain. What is to me the most terrifying thing about Blackbeard is his ability to strategize and his patience. As Shanks pointed out before, he used being in the shadow of Whitebeard to his advantage, and pretended to have no ambition, until he finally found the dark fruit he was searching for so long. Then, he seized the opportunity and revealed that his ambition was second to none. Not only that, unlike Luffy, he seems like the kind of guy for whom the ends justify the means, and he will even kill a crewmate as he did with Thatch to get what he wants. I feel like for a long time, Blackbeard got slept on, but some of his impressive feats, including giving Shanks his scars in battle before he even obtained any devil fruit, he and his crew finishing off Whitebeard before Blackbeard stole the old Legends devil fruit, having two of the most powerful devil fruit powers at the same time, while a normal person can't have more than one devil fruit, and more recently, beating Law with his 3 billion berry bounty, a feat that mirrored Yonko Shanks beating Kid. And perhaps what's most impressive is how good only a portion of his crew can be without him even being present. Former Admiral and almost Fleet Admiral Kuzan is one of the 10 Titanic captains. That's almost like someone having Sakazuki on their crew. We recently saw a Kuzan-led portion of the crew defeat Garp, one of the most legendary characters in the series, even if he was past his prime. So it's no surprise that this character that Shanks seems to fear more than any other will be a major player during One Piece's endgame, especially since his dark fruit power perfectly contrasts Luffy's Sun God fruit power thematically, with some people even speculating that Blackbeard's mysterious dark fruit that acts differently from other Logia could even secretly turn out to be a mythical zone too. One thing's for sure, like Ace and Whitebeard proved, you don't want to underestimate this guy. Number 4. Next we have 39-year-old Buggy the Star Clan with his bounty of 3.189 billion berries. He's obviously not as terrifying as Blackbeard, but similarly, I think he shouldn't be underestimated. Yes, he's not the strongest, and it does seem like Mihawk and Crocodile are actually pulling the strings in Cross Guild, but it's telling that Oda chose to put him and not the other two here. He has the charisma that makes people want to worship him and want to follow him to the ends of the world. His Chop Chop fruit helps him look larger than life, and as far as appearances go, to the outside world he looks like the head of an organization that includes strongest swordsman Mihawk and Crocodile, and that has come up with the brilliant and dangerous idea, one of my favorite in the series, of putting bounties on marine heads so they can have a taste of their own medicine. He was on Gold D. Rogers' ship, he's a brother to Yonko Shanks, he's had an epic showdown against fellow Yonko Luffy at Orange Town and bounced back to become a Yonko with the greatest swordsman in the world on his crew. The legend of Buggy writes itself. In all seriousness, he may have stumbled his way into the position of Yonko, but that doesn't mean his stumbling forward will stop here. In anime, luck, or as the ancient Romans called it, fortuna, can be a superpower. Just look at King from One Punch Man. And I would not want to bet against Buggy's luck, especially since he does seem to be one of Oda's favorite characters. Number 5. Next up, we have the Fleet Admiral Sakazuki. And the fact that he's included here in this final race for the One Piece is a big deal because Oda had before said that if Sakazuki was the protagonist of the series, he is so strong that One Piece would come to an end within a year. Those of us who follow what Oda says know that you should never take his timelines too seriously. Everything usually takes longer than he says, but the point is, he was hyping up Sakazuki's strength and arguably saying that if Sakazuki was trying to find the One Piece like Luffy was, he would have found it a long time ago. Having him here also shows us that with such strong characters aiming for the One Piece now, as the story concludes, we are fast approaching the ending of the series. Sakazuki's Magma Fruit Logia has helped him kill Ace, take off half of Yonko Whitebeard's face, defeat Admiral Kuzan, and become the new Fleet Admiral. It would make sense in the story for Luffy to eventually battle Sakazuki because Sakazuki is the reason his brother Ace died, and is the one who left Luffy with that huge scar on the front of his body. I'm not saying Sakazuki is pure evil, but he is definitely an antagonist and far from good. Not only did he kill Ace and almost kill Luffy, he looked like he was ready to kill Koby, his own marine soldier, before Shanks came to the rescue and blocked his attack with his own hockey-coated blade. He was the strictest of the first 3 admirals with his absolute justice philosophy. Probably the best example of how extreme it was when he wiped out an evacuation ship which included kids because one of the Ohara scholars may have been hiding out on it. In his mind, he said if even one scholar escaped, all the sacrifice would have been for naught. He added, you must destroy evil at its very roots. So you can see the issue here. His justice prioritizes punishing those that break the law, so much so that it doesn't matter if many innocent people have to suffer injustice in the process of making sure everyone who should be punished is punished. For this reason, Sakazuki finding the One Piece and shaping the world to his desires would probably not be a good thing. That being said, he has had some surprisingly human moments, like showing mercy to Kuzan and letting him live after the 10-day duel, apologizing to Kizaru recently and calling him brother after Kizaru had to kill Vegapunk recently, not firing Fujitora despite the latter disobeying orders, and seemingly sparing Bonnie after, in effect, saving her from Blackbeard. He also pushes back against the elders and by extension Imu, which is admirable. He doesn't like how the world government system goes out of its way to protect celestial dragons and even pushes back when they say Kuzan joining Blackbeard brings dishonor to the Navy, by saying that Kuzan resigned, so what he's doing now is not their responsibility. This shows that Sakazuki is not just a puppet for Imu, so if he were to find the One Piece, he would shape things differently than Imu, which is probably why they're both pictured here. If a character is shown, I believe it means they have their own unique way they'd like to shape the world that's different from the other 11, even if they're on the same side seemingly. And if you have to pick between Sakazuki and Imu, Sakazuki seems like the better choice at this point, considering all the demonic and evil stuff that's been associated with Imu and the elders. Number 6. Next up we have Luffy's father, aka the world's worst criminal, the 55-year-old Dragon. Dragon is the infamous supreme commander of the Revolutionary Army, but he's still shrouded in so much mystery. Even his bounty and devil fruit are still unknown as of writing. However, with a title like the world's worst criminal, you can bet that his bounty is high, especially since as the leader of the revolutionaries, he's arguably the biggest threat to the powers that be, aka to the world government and Imu. Now we do have some clues about his devil fruit, including that it seemingly lets him control the weather, like wind and lightning. Furthermore, he has army commanders like Ivankov working under him, and his second in command is none other than the Flame Emperor Sabo, another one of the 12 major players on this list. It's already impressive that the Revolutionary Army hasn't been stopped because of their direct opposition towards the world government. And it was impressive that they managed to save Kuma from Marijoa and the admirals couldn't stop them. But I still think they're overdue for some epicness, especially Dragon, so I fully expect for our expectations to be met and to see the army and their leader shine in this final saga. However, it must be said that the army is far from untouchable, and by all accounts, Blackbeard pirates got the better of them and leveled their old HQ at Baltigo to the ground before the Marines and Cypherpole arrived. Albeit since the HQ location was leaked, there would be no purpose in the revolutionaries trying their best to defend it, but it's something to know. One thing's for sure, Dragon would be one of the best people to find the One Piece because we know what he wants, a world that is free of slavery and world government corruption. The cruel celestial dragons would also lose their special privilege that they virtually always abuse. Number 7. Next, it makes sense to talk about the 22-year-old Sabo. The already mentioned Flame Emperor and second in command of the Revolutionary Army, not to mention Luffy's other blood brother besides Ace. Sabo's reputation has really risen to take on a life of its own. He's not just living in Dragon's shadow anymore. In fact, a potential rift between the two was teased when he was blamed for King Cobra's death, but the air was cleared when Sabo met with Dragon and Ivankov and told them the dangerous to even know truth about Imu sitting on the empty throne. Sabo's bounty was last revealed to be 602 million, and since the Straw Hats have multiple members over that, it's honestly not quite that impressive, and perhaps doesn't bode well for Dragon's eventual bounty reveal, since the second in command's bounty is usually pretty high too if the captain's is, but we'll see. You never really know with Dragon's worst criminal title what his bounty is truly capable of. Sabo has inherited Brother Ace's flame fruit and has used it to great effect, so that now he is both revered and feared as the Flame Emperor. The title positions him as a kind of new 5th Emperor, which definitely makes the revolutionaries as a whole look good if you think about having an emperor as the second in command. The fact that 2 members of the revolutionaries are on this list shows that the revolutionaries will no doubt play a big role in the final saga, and having Sabo here also suggests to me that Sabo may have his own unique plans if he personally finds the One Piece, even if they may more or less be similar to Dragon's. And with the growing popularity and influence of the Flame Emperor, perhaps the distance between Sabo and Dragon will continue to grow as the final saga goes on. Number 8. So we mentioned the second in command of the Revolutionaries. Now let's go over the second member of the Blackbeard Pirates on this list, former Admiral and almost Fleet Admiral Kuzan, the 10th Titanic captain of the Blackbeard Pirates. A lot of people were surprised that Kuzan joined the Blackbeard Pirates, and to this day think that he's going to betray them, which may even be why he is among the 12 here, because if he finds it, he will shape the world differently than Blackbeard would. The best part is, Blackbeard doesn't even have the right to be mad if that happens, since he betrayed Whitebeard and his former crew too. For instance, there have long been theories that he is a secret member of SWORD, working beyond enemy lines. However, to be fair, that was started before the whole battle against SWORD recently. And honestly, it's not that hard to believe that he might betray Blackbeard. Kuzan's lazy justice, as it's been called, was much more complicated than Sakazuki's sense of justice. Kuzan would let his own sense of justice influence his actions, even if those actions were in direct opposition to orders. We already brought up how he called Sakazuki a jerk for attacking the refugee ship, and said he would never go that far. What's more, he spared Jaguar D Saul, Robin, and even the Straw Hats before. This is in direct contrast to Sakazuki, who would not spare the innocent if there was even the chance that it would mean sparing the guilty. So since he appeared to be the most moral of the original 3 admirals, it was a shock that Kuzan would join the at best amoral and ruthless Blackbeard. Combine that with the fact that Sakazuki didn't finish him off or even target him after he joined the Blackbeard Pirates, it's easy to see why people could see him being a double agent of some kind, secretly working with less corrupted sections of the Marines or SWORD. We'll see if he ends up betraying Blackbeard or not. But either way, right now, he definitely makes the Blackbeard Pirates look like a bigger deal, and as a Blackbeard Pirate, he definitely make the final clash between the Blackbeard Pirates and the Straw Hats more epic. Most recently, he played the biggest role in seemingly ending the Legend Garp's life. And I just say seemingly because we all know by now that Kuzan's finishers can end up actually sparing characters. Yes, Garp was past his prime, yes, Kuzan had assistance, but it's still very impressive that he led a portion of the Blackbeard Pirates to victory against the Garp-led SWORD members. Yes, Koby managed to escape, but I'd still call the death of a Marine hero like Garp and the SWORD members running away a clear loss for the Marine side. And whatever Kuzan ends up deciding to do, as with the Revolutionaries, the fact that 2 of the Blackbeard Pirate members are among the 12 final key endgame players means that the Blackbeard Pirates as a whole will definitely play a big role in this final One Piece saga. Number 9. Speaking of SWORD, let's talk about Koby next, a true zero to hero story. The 18-year-old Vice Admiral has a current cross-guild bounty of 500 million, still a far cry from Garp's 3 billion, but not too shabby. Koby started off as a coward in the story, cowering before the pirate Alvida, who, fun fact, has a 5 million berry bounty, a 100 times lower bounty than he himself has in the present. An encounter with Luffy changed his life. Luffy just punched Koby when he spoke of fears and excuses. Ironically, a pirate's determination to achieve his dream or die trying inspired Koby to follow his own dream of becoming a Marine. Fast forward to recently, and Koby is known as a hero, a clear sign that he's the rightful heir to his mentor Garp's legacy, since he too was known as a hero. Koby also proved his insane power during that fight against Kuzan and the Blackbeard Pirates, when he unleashed his Honesty Impact attack, an attack clearly modeled after mentor Garp's Galaxy Impact attack. This attack stopped Pizarro's seemingly impossible to stop giant island hand from crushing their ship. It was said that the arm was as big as a mountain, and yet Koby had the power to punch through it and destroy it. Everyone is in shock that it could be done, with Helmeppo even calling the feat unbelievable and seriously amazing. So I see great things in store for Koby, the greatest glow-up in the series. His placement among these 12 all but confirms it. I can definitely see him getting to that 3 billion berry cross-guild bounty and being worthy of the Admiral title whether he takes it or not. And it's clear that if he finds the One Piece and shapes the world to his liking, it would be a different world and a better world than Imu or even Sakazuki would create. Number 10. Next up, we have possibly the greatest villain in the entire series, the shadowy and secret ruler of the world, Imu-sama. Imu seems to be immortal. As far as we know, they have been alive since the Void Century at least, where they were familiar with Joy Boy and Nefertari D Lily. For the most part, Imu seems overpowered. We saw an arrow-shaped tentacle or tail seemingly come from Imu and attack Cobra and Sabo. Flame Emperor Sabo's only chance was to flee, while Cobra died as a result of his injuries. Besides Imu's individual power, which I'm sure we've only seen a tiny glimpse of, the 5 elders are associated with Imu too. They are not just random underlings, since their powers seem to be tied to Imu's own powers. For instance, we've recently figured out that Imu can grant the title of Elder, and with that title comes among other things immortality. However, if an Elder disappoints Imu, as Saturn did, Imu can replace that Elder. The replaced Elder will then seemingly lose their Imu granted powers, namely immortality, and then will be consumed by black flames, until they are no more. It's likely that all the special powers we've seen, from immortality to teleportation summoning to the actual yokai powers that weren't ever labeled as devil fruits when they were named, were granted by Imu to the 5 elders. This would also help explain why when Imu was shocked by Joy Boy's time-traveling hockey blast, all the elders returned to human forms and those that were summoned were teleported back. Joy Boy's hockey probably interfered with Imu's powers, and that was the result. So if there is a devil fruit among them, I'd say it's Imu's, and it's a devil fruit that can grant powers to others as well. We found out that Imu doesn't create underlings from scratch, but chooses loyal and strong followers and grants them additional powers along with the privileged title of Elder. Along with Imu's own powers and the elders, Imu has the most other resources too, like the world government, the marines, and even an ancient weapon that we've seen can be used to erase islands like Lucia from existence. Not only that, the water level is raised as a result of this weapon being used, so that Imu has the power to flood the world if York can keep the Mother Flame fuel coming. Considering that Imu has been the ruler of the world for a long time now, it's safe to assume that the world would keep going down a similar path if they found the One Piece. Sure, Imu would use it to further solidify control and erase enemies, but we already have a good idea of what we can expect from an Imu-controlled world, since in effect, the world has been Imu-controlled for a good while now. Number 11. Next up we have the newest elder chosen by Imu, the one replacing Saturn, Saint Figarland Garling, the champion of God Valley. Figarland Garling is a relatively recently introduced wildcard. Not only is he clearly related to Shanks, some even assuming that it's Shanks' dad, but he was also the commander of the God's Knights before his elder promotion. The God's Knights or Holy Knights have been hyped up since when the Rocks Pirates and Roger Pirates appeared on God Valley at the same time, Garling told the Marines to guard the Celestial Dragons and trusted that the God's Knights could handle the pirates. We don't know much about what happened next, but clearly Figarland Garling survived that legendary historic event. As the commander of such a hyped up group, and as a Shanks relative, he was sure to be very strong. But now with Elder status and the immortality and other buffs that come with it, he's likely to be on a whole other level. It makes sense that with all that going for him, he'll be one of the key players in this final saga, and I don't think it's too big of a stretch to assume that he'd be the strongest Gorosei now, a more than fitting replacement for the Luffy-bested Saturn. Saint Figarland Garling likely has his own idea of how best to shape the world if he were to find the One Piece, but we can only speculate about it at this point, since we don't know him that well. For now, it definitely doesn't look like he'd change the world for the better. However, I think he's also in a unique position to potentially betray Imu if he so chooses. I believe that the reason Saturn aged quickly and died after Imu replaced him was because the immortality was lost, and so his real age caught up with him. Since Garling just became an elder, it's possible that he wouldn't die upon losing his immortality. It's not like he'll have 100 years catching up to him, just some days or months depending on when it happens. So he's definitely one to watch during this final saga, and arguably not just a brainless pawn of Imu's. Number 12, next up we have the shadowy mystery figure who we obviously can't confirm much about at this point. There are theories based on the silhouette and the sword that it could be Shanks' brother, perhaps the strongest God's Knight of the current era. Or it could be the much alluded to man marked by flames who rides in an all-black ship that swallows enemies in a gigantic vortex if they should wander too close. The man marked by flames should have the final road poneglyph, in which case he'd have to be super relevant to the final saga. Either way, we know way too little about this figure to speculate about what kind of world they'd want to create if they were to find the One Piece first. So there we have it: Shanks, Luffy, Blackbeard, Buggy, Sakazuki, Dragon, Imu, Koby, Kuzan, Garling, Sabo, and the mystery figure all 12 key endgame figures explained. Now, if I had to rank them real quick in terms of who currently has the best chances of finding the One Piece with their current crew strengths, I'd rank them from lowest to highest. Mystery figure by default, Koby, Sabo, Kuzan, Sakazuki, Figarland Garling, Dragon, Buggy and Cross Guild, Luffy, Shanks, Blackbeard, and Emu. Obviously, as a general rule, I put subordinates in the same organization as having lower chance of finding it. But of course, this is as things stand now and anything could happen. I fully expect characters to grow in power, and I do expect Luffy to eventually surpass all of the characters on this list. If you enjoyed discussing the endgame of One Piece, then you definitely won't want to miss this video, link on screen right now, where I talk about all the Yonko in detail, especially these 4 who will be so relevant in the final saga. Link on screen right now. Like and subscribe for more One Piece, and I'll see you in the next one.